power is over. But that does not mean for one instant of a second that the fun is over. Without a doubt, you are here because the power is out. So stick around, because it's PowerrrOut. Yeah, it's PowerrrOut.
It is Tuesday night. Welcome to another edition of PowerrrOut, your live reaction to all things National Wrestling Alliance through lovewrestling.ca. Whether you're joining us live, whether you're catching the replay, or whether you're listening to us on the podcast, thank you so much for joining us. My name is Zach Ralph. I am the host of PowerrrOut. Once again, also, before I forget, Mr. J, always fantastic introduction. You are the man. My guest today, my guest host, he's the director and filmmaker of Out in the Ring, Ry Levey. Dude, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks, man. Glad to be back and looking forward to talking about today's show.
Yeah. Ry and I actually spoke earlier this week. He was part of the Smark and Friends podcast, which is going to air this coming Thursday. We spoke a little bit at length about the film. Ry, before we really get going on the NWA Power review, tell us a little bit about Out in the Ring and everything everyone needs to know about the upcoming film.
Yeah, so Out in the Ring is a documentary that explores the history and journey of LGBTQ professional wrestlers and representation in the history of professional wrestling. We go from anywhere from the 1940s. We start back as early as the 1940s and go through until today, where we're having a current boom of LGBTQ plus talent from around the globe. So we have many great people in there, many of them also recognizable from PowerrrOut, and of course, who's an ally. His tag team partner is also an ally, Odinson, and Fred Rosser, and a number of other people are also featured as well, past and present NWA talent too.
Right on, man. Like, unfortunately, no Pero on today's episode, but he has just been like an I've always liked Pero. I've always caught his matches on YouTube or here and there, but like I've never seen him like involved in like a journey. I've not been watching him on a regular program. So I'm so excited that he's a staple on NWA Power. It's certainly one of the highlights. But again, no Pero this week, but there's still lots to talk about. Kicking off the show, Kyle Davis is there at the interview station with Trevor Mutoch. Mutoch's there. He's calling out Adonis, says he welcomed Adonis to the NWA with open arms, and he wants a rematch for the national championship after being stabbed in the back and assaulted. Instead of Adonis, Aldis comes out. I always confuse those two. The beginnings of their names just sound too similar. Pardon me, little sidetrack. Aldis takes exception to Mutoch blaming Aldis for the lost championship last week. Says Mutoch made a dumb decision. He has no one to blame but for himself, and he's not championship material. But if Mutoch can stay out of Aldis's business in the main event, in the exhibition match, maybe he'll get a shot of 10 pounds of gold down the road. All I have to say about this segment, man, it's a good thing that they have Aldis in the position that he's in, because from anyone else, this was a very convoluted proposal. And I hate to say this because I do like a lot of the stories he's generally involved in. But as convoluted as it was, like, Aldis made it work. Like, Mutoch came out, he wanted a national championship match, and I'm not sure what Aldis's motives are in offering him a championship, NWA championship match instead. Content-wise, wasn't great. I thought Mutoch and Aldis brought it to the stage, but just about as well as any two people could. What do you think of this one?
I mean, I've always been a little mixed on Aldis, going back many years. I thought he was a good promo, and I've always been a fan of Trevor Mutoch. I mean, it got the job done, but again, you're right, it was very convoluted. It just kind of I didn't quite get the storyline and why Aldis came out and why Adonis, didn't come out and address it and try, or at least have them come out as kind of a group and maybe, it's, I'm kind of confused on the storyline. Is he a member of Strictly Business? Is he not a member? He's saying he is. He isn't. We're still recruiting. It's just it's a lot of verbiage to just get to a simple thing of figuring out what this group is. I mean, and I think Murdoch's capable of having a great match. I mean, he's certainly a bruiser, and he was away for a while, but we'll see where it goes. I mean, I didn't quite understand the whole his whole reasoning behind it, but it just could be just a little bit of a promo stumble this week.
Yeah, just like I don't know, just a segment that maybe didn't land from the writers' room to the commentary, to the interview station or interview podium, whatever you might want to call it. I definitely agree. Like this whole is Adonis, isn't he Strictly Business thing being very up in the air. I'm sure they're moving somewhere with it, but like at the stage it's at, there's just like a dissonance between what's being said by the various characters on screen. Yeah,
it's odd. It's certainly odd.
Yeah, I'm with you 100% there. We move from the interview podium to the special report with May Valentine and Slice Boogie. Boogie says there's too much talk happening in the NWA locker room, specifically from Jax Dane, who Slice Boogie pinned at NWA Back for the Attack. He's calling Dane out one by one. Very happy that they continue to invest in Slice Boogie. I wasn't familiar with him going into NWA since before Back for the Attack, but he's got a really strong promo, and the more I see of him in the ring, the more I like him. Have you ever come across Slice Boogie?
I'm not really familiar with Slice Boogie. The promo was all right. I thought the creepy butt checking out of May Valentine was a little overly, lascivious and just kind of creepy, but obviously last week he was in the tag team with Mr. Mims. They had a really kind of a mediocre match. I mean, because most of the match Dane was laying on the floor unconscious. And Crimson, I mean, I've never really been a big Crimson fan. He's a big guy. He's a good-looking build on him and stuff, but not, doesn't really excite me in any way, shape, or form. He didn't excite me when he came out years ago with his awesome his Amazing Red's brother. And Dane's been around for a long time. I mean, he's a journeyman. He's former NWA champ. And New Japan Pro. And I didn't quite get the whole point of having the call out this week, when last week we had this whole angle that looked like Crimson and Dane are going to be breaking up, and from the last show, and then they get the win. Slice Boogie, he's a decent wrestler. I mean, I haven't seen enough yet to to get me really excited, but of the four guys in that match last week, I mean. I thought Mims was kind of the standout for me. I mean, I'm familiar with Matthew Mims, so.
That's a very good point. I actually forgot about the dissension between Crimson and Jax Dane, because there's also this other storyline between tag team happening where there's dissonance involved. But speaking of tag team matches, before we move on to the next match, I just want to shout out from the comments, Conrad from EPW Show. What's up, guys? Thank you so much for joining us, Conrad. Thank you anyone who's in the comments, be you on Twitch or YouTube or Facebook. Drop us a line, let us know what you think of the show, and we'll pick your brain as much as I'm picking Ry's this evening. But yeah, moving on to this next tag team match. Lots happen in this non-titled match, so it's going to be hard for me to be concise without missing a valuable piece of the puzzle here. Solonaro says his partner is on the way while he's entering the ring. Stevens and Kratos come out. Stevens is playing very sympathetic to Sol's position, but he continues to best Renaro quite easily. Commentary points out that Renaro doesn't have a single win since season 1 of NWA Powerrr. Kratos comes in. Mood changes. He just dominates Renaro, throws him around the ring. Beautiful cut and red suplexes. Stevens is starting to grow uneasy. So you can tell he's not really happy with Kratos just going to town. Danny Deals comes up for some reason, I suppose to be like a red herring about Solonaro's tag team partner, but Kratos beats him down as well. Kratos beating down Danny Deals all the way to the commentary. Kratos breaks the count, gets back in the ring. Again, lots to talk about. Please excuse me. I'm almost done this little tirade. But eventually, Tim Storm has enough. He gets up from the commentary booth. He tries to tell the champs to call it off, end the match, just make the decision final. He jumps up out in the apron. We get more dissension between Kratos and Stevens. Kratos goes to punch his tag team partner Stevens, but Stevens ducks. Tim Storm retaliates by punching out Kratos. Saul with the roll-up and the win. Saul and Tim Storm are declared the winners. This was really uncharacteristic of NWA. This was not like a straightforward tag team match. Oh, very overbooked, very silly. But I have to say, I thought they executed very well, which is not something I can say about silly matches. And I say that because I understood all the motives of everyone who was active at the time, from Tim Storm to Solonaro, Kratos, maybe not Danny Deals, but we'll see how that plays out. It made sense. It was silly, but it made sense. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, it's interesting for me. I've been watching Solonaro for years, from Ring of Honor and all the way through, his work in Georgia. I mean, he's, a fairly, excuse me, fairly, solid hand in the ring when given a chance. Obviously they seem to be doing this. I mean, I've seen him do the kind of crazy Solonaro thing with the braid and that, but it seems to me they're going in almost a Eugene kind of way.
Oh, I hope not.
With
I'm not ready for that.
With I don't, which is dubious in that that he's kind of the goofy, funny, smiley guy, kind of crazy, and it was pretty telegraphed. I mean, Tim Storm's the only champion out there, so he's the only one available that they seem to really have. I mean, unless they're bringing somebody in as a surprise. And to be honest, quite frankly, NWA hasn't been great at pulling surprises in the last year.
Yeah.
So I was just like, oh, so when's Tim Storm going to get up from the table and go help? Because you could hear it, and Storm, you could hear it in Storm's voice that he was just like, it was just like telegraphing. Again, Jared Kratos, solid wrestler, also New Japan guy. Goes back for a lot of years. Aaron Stevens, always been an underrated talent. I don't know. I mean, it was fine. I mean, there's nothing offensive. I mean, Danny Deals. I mean, I didn't. I was like, really? That's gonna be his partner.
Yeah.
I didn't get when Danny Deals came in anyway originally with, because he came in with Jax. I mean,
yeah. He was also doing like this bizarre playing Tim Storm's mom last pre-hiatus.
Yes, I remember that too.
Yeah.
Again, not quite sure, that, but in terms of clearly they were going to be breaking up Stevens and Kratos soon. I mean, it was kind of a throw again. The Kratos thing is kind of a thrown together tag team, really. Anyway, I mean, there's no way we could, understand what was happening with, Josephus, and question mark, that we would have the tragedy that we had. But, it was fine. Again, nothing great. I would have rather seen Saul in a real match, because I do think, when given the chance, he can work. But, it is what it is. I mean, hopefully, something comes out of this that, that yields an interesting result.
You bring up a really good point about NWA kind of really lacking the punch about surprises. Like when they were teasing this championship, I don't know, the big talk in the wrestling world, of course, right now is the forbidden door and walls between promotions kind of starting to blur. We saw very, very small hints of that in the past weeks. Like they keep referencing Thunder Rosa's match with Britt Baker at St. Patrick's Day. So I don't know. I was hoping against hope for maybe something with a little more splash, but you'll never hear me complain about seeing Tim Storm in a ring. He's just endeared himself to me, and providing he can still go, I will always be happy to see him.
Listen, class act, solid worker, journeyman guy, never really had the chance, and really good on commentary. I mean,
Yeah.
really good on commentary.
Yeah.
'Cause
He is. Pardon me. Go ahead.
Velvet's just dull as dishwater. I mean, she's just kind of sitting there going, "Yeah."
I gotta disagree with you there. I feel like Velvet. I'll admit she's quiet at times, and like she doesn't have a lot of vocal color. But I feel like she's got a good mind for it. I feel like the content she's delivering is good. I just feel like there's a lack of vocal color. But
that may be it. But it certainly did feel a lot. There seems to be like a lot of silence. I mean, that's something that'll come, I think, with time. I mean, it's not something she's used to doing. I mean,
100%.
It's in the last time she was in a ring was an Impact, Ring of Honor, kind of doing really stuff. Mm-hmm. And she was limited, and I mean, of the three women in Impact, I mean, Madison was the one who actually became the really good voice behind the mic. But give it time. I'm sure she'll pick it up. But
yeah, I believe so as well. But one more thing we got to say about Tim Storm's commentary. He did something masterful when they came back from the break. Gally and Velvet, they were congratulating him for the tag team victory. He does such a good job of taking focus off of himself and putting it on Saul. Instantly, like he's like, guys, Solonaro just like went to war and he persevered the best he could. He did the work. I was just on the apron at the right time. I just really admired him doing that at that moment.
Yeah, no, he's up. He's again. I think he realizes at this point, there was a lot of attention on him being able to hold the title at the age that he is, and I think now he's at the point where he's like, I'm, I got to put, maybe I'll put some guys over. I mean, it's not obviously he's not putting over a young guy, but he's putting over talent that could use a little bump up. So that's good for Tim Storm doing that.
Absolutely. We move from this segment to Kyle Davis at the interview station with Pope, Austin Idol, and his client. Kyle suggests mutual respect between the two budding opponents. Says Idol's client keeps following him to. Excuse me. My notes are a little jumbled here. Pope says that Idol's client keeps following him around to every promotion that he's been to. The client in question, he offers his rebukes. Pope fires up and saying that the carpet keeps getting pulled out from under him, and expects his foe to. Sorry, you know what? It's so hard for me to like really keep my notes concise when I'm referring to like this particular person, because like I just don't invest in what's going on. I pull away.
I wouldn't invest in him either. I mean, it's what, how many times is this guy going to get fired from a promotion and show up somewhere? Yeah. I mean, it's, he's the he's a Fox News guy. He's a commentator. He's a trash human being, and it's really hard to engage. And what scares me the most is that for some bizarre reason, they are pairing him up with somebody who's actually fairly progressive thinking, forward thinking dude in Austin Idol, who, was the person who had, Pollo Del Mar on his podcast, it's done all this stuff. And then they've stuck him with this lump because he's never been a great wrestler. Yeah. I mean, he never, they tried how many times? I mean, I still can't forgive him for using Ernest the Cat Miller's music theme in WWE.
And that's the least of his transgressions, but yes, an important one to discuss.
But it's, it's interesting to see it. I mean, they're trying the angle of you're following me everywhere. Well, that's because, frankly, Pope doesn't have a very good track record of keeping a job. Places either, right? I mean, yeah, they just seem to be in the same place at some time. It's not like there was that many options. I mean, there's, they've worked for the four companies at different points. And, I mean, it wasn't a great promo. I mean, a real waste of Austin Idol standing there letting, what's his name, who, I just have no use for. And then we cut to what happens after that, and I'll let you kind of introduce everybody into that.
Well, yeah, I mean, like it just transitions into a triple threat match, and we know what's going to happen before it even starts. The match was originally going to be Marche Rocket versus Matt Cross, but you know, the match proceeds, and a victory gets stolen from Matt Cross after he hits a always beautiful shooting star press, and victory is stolen from him. Really liked what I saw out of Rocket and Matt. I always like what I see out of Matt Cross, and Rocket continues to impress in my short experience watching his stuff. But this was to advance the TV title picture, which unfortunately does not involve them at the present time. What else can you say?
And it was very quick to like, he just kind of got up on the apron. Like there was no bargaining for getting into the match. They just said, hey, it's a three-way dance. I'm like, what is this? He didn't, Austin Idol didn't go. It's not like he ran back and talked to Billy Corgan and said, hey, let's put my man in the mix. He just kind of got up there and they just said, okay.
Yeah, I agree 100% there.
It was just like, oh, so this lump is going to get in the match. I'm going to miss out on seeing two guys who are Matt Cross is phenomenal and has been phenomenal for years. And Marche Rocket, I've been familiar with him in Impact before for a brief period of time. They basically carried who through the match. I mean, he just did his big guy stuff whenever he could, and Matt Cross, basically put him over.
Yeah, absolutely. It was still Rocket who takes the loss, but again, it was Matt Cross's victory. Always a beautiful shooting star press.
Yeah, always.
From here, we move to another May Valentine's segment. The big takeaway here: Adonis says there's going to be no championship rematch for Trevor Mutoch. He will not get a shot at the national championship. We move forward. We got a match between Camille and Genocide. This started off really strong. It was a really good story of power versus power. They're just constantly trying to one up each other. Tackle attempts, tests of strength. I really liked what I saw at first. Come to the end, it started like, I don't know, it fell off the rails a little bit. Just like it wasn't as crisp as like the first half of the match. Or at least that's, of course, that's me saying so as an outsider. Finish comes. Camille brings Genocide to the top rope. She fights out of it. Camille with an Oklahoma roll. She looks for a spear. She hits it. Genocide kicks out at 2. A second spear does it. Gets the 3 count. Melina comes out to check on Genocide, and she eats a spear. Thunder Rosa comes out for the stare down. What do you think of this one?
I'm again familiar with Genocide from Indies. It's I'm glad Thunder Rosa has another place to put her Mission Pro girls. But and they seem to kind of that seems to be where the relationship with AEW and NWA is that in the women. I think Camille is fine. I mean, I think she needs a lot more experience. I think it's a similar AEW's got a similar thing going on with Jade Cargill. I think Camille is that same way. She's a big, muscular, strong girl, reasonably good on the mic, which, for considering how long they spent before they let her speak.
Yeah.
And I'd rather she spoke over her dreaded husband or whatever he is. Cause I don't want to hear anything come out of that guy's mouth.
I'm with you right there.
And to be honest, I thought it was fine. I mean, when they were doing the power stuff, it was fine. But she botched one of the spears, kind of. Genocide didn't take a clean bump. I mean, I was a little worried because she hit her hip. She went down on her hip pretty hard on that bump, and I was like, and that's that's never good. I mean, but it's fine. I mean, again, Genocide, for a veteran, I mean, she's still also a little stiff too. I don't know. It's just some of this could also be just I mean, I've seen Genocide have some great matches on the indies, and I think it's also a matter of who you're working with too. I mean, sometimes Matt Cross carried a guy through a match, basically, and Marche to an extent too. And the other one, they carried him through.
Yeah.
And I think Camille has had better matches with Thunder Rosa because Thunder Rosa can pretty much carry anybody through a good match. I thought the Melina thing was kind of silly. I mean, last week was like her and Taryn Terrell like talking about who they were going to align with, and there's no Taryn Terrell this week. And then Melina wants to get in a fight, and she just takes off her shoes and gets in the ring and gets speared. And then I didn't even notice the Rosa calling her out because there was a cameraman in the way.
Right. Yeah.
At first, and then by the time I noticed Rosa, I mean, it was just kind of like you couldn't hear her. They didn't have it mic'd, so I mean, I'm not excited by it. I mean, obviously, I think it'd be good. I think they could do. They're gonna have to do something. I mean, I don't know how long they're gonna be able to stretch out a Camille versus Thunder Rosa feud.
Yeah, especially going into a rematch, because like Back for the Attack, it just ended decisively, and it didn't really seem like there was need for this feud to continue, shy of like Serena Deeb possibly being out injured or just being presently unavailable as champion.
She is injured right now.
I thought so. Yeah.
She's out with an injury, so.
I will say this, like, maybe it's not landing for you, and like I totally respect that, but I feel that this season of NWA, one of their strong suits is they're actually putting thought into their women's division. Like they're doing more creative things. Like I felt like last time, Melina had her click with Thunder Rosa and her name escapes me.
Marty Bell.
Thank you, Marty Bell, and that was going in an interesting direction before the hiatus. This one, I don't know. I feel like they're just trying more. And that's all I guess I can really say about that.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of one of the things I got to say is that there's a lot of indie talent, and we're getting a chance to see a lot more of it on regular TV. I mean, there's people now that are recognized that could easily come in and would love to work a spot. I mean, I believe they're shooting out of Atlanta, aren't they? So why isn't Danny Jordan on NWA? Why isn't Angelus Lane showing up on NWA? You've got AC Mack, who's one of the best wrestlers in Georgia and an incredible young guy on the mic, amazing. And they could be using some of this talent there to really put people. Ashton Starr is in Georgia and an amazing talent. And again, charismatic, different. There's definitely kind of a, it's a little ho-hum this week. I mean, I think it's just,
Your knowledge of this impressed me when we recorded Smart and Friends as well. Your knowledge of like who's in any given territory is so impressive. I just want to put that out there.
I think, I think it's just, I mean, working on the film, you got to get familiar with people and you started to learn about it. And being able to make the film made me, want to be a bigger, maybe a bigger fan. And I started watching a lot more wrestling again. So.
Totally fair. We move on to a main event that we can't really discuss because it just went on. So it was over before it started. Jordan Clearwater versus Nick Aldis. Nice to see Clearwater get a shot. I was really excited for that, but it was all for nothing. Just a handshake, tie up, and Mutoch immediately through the curtain, busts out, brawls with Strictly Business out of the curtain. Beatdown ensues. Ref bell for no contest. Full Nelson bomb on by Adonis to Mutoch. Into the fire plays. I think it's fairly obvious that they where this was going, in spite of the commentary team playing it a little dumbfounded. Clearly, Mutoch intended to stay out of trouble, but instead, Strictly Business provoked him, dragged him out through the curtain, getting the match thrown out, and violating the proposal that Aldis gave at the top of the show. It seemed very unnecessary to do this little frame job, for lack of a better term. I'm willing to see where it goes, but I'm not eager to see where it goes.
Well, it didn't really go anywhere. I mean, it just, I mean, first off, the most annoying thing about this is that they've got a great, wonderful talent in Jordan Clearwater, who I'm a huge fan of, and just is a good-looking young talent, the kind of talent that they could use to build around. to create, to do something with the television title or do something with any one of these types of titles, could give them a really exciting boost. I mean, the few young talents that they're using right now have been great. I mean, it's, Mims reminds me of Pez Watley, who I loved in NWA for years. Obviously, if you know people who know Pez Watley only saw him as an enhancement talent, but so much great talent was used as enhancement when you went to television. But Pez Watley was a champion. He was huge in the NWA scene, and just went to the WWE Hall of Fame. Legacy wing. He reminds me of that. He's got that stocky build, muscular, can move. It's great. Clearwater's there, and and they wasted an opportunity for what could have been just even a little bit of a, could have been a nice match. I mean, they could have even had a whole thing where they mess up and he ends up helping the other kid go over or something.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if Spencer's in the comments, but I know you have an affinity for Jordan Clearwater. So shout him out while you're here. I got to agree with you. Just like it was not very well executed. It could have been something more. I think more of the talent could have gotten more out of it rather than just this very bizarre frame job spot that doesn't really. Yeah, I don't know. Very disappointing and frankly, not the strongest foot that NWA has been on since they've returned from the hiatus. Personally, I found it challenging to invest in most of the episode because of heavy involvement by, various persona non gratas, but even the stuff without those people didn't always land. But at the same time, it was not without its strong suits. I really enjoyed the tag team match. That was a highlight. Maybe I would have swapped that for Camille and versus Genocide, switch them in positions on the card to, have the penultimate main event have a little more zing to it. But, you can only nitpick so much. You can only improve that episode so much by a match swap.
Yeah, I don't think there was much you could do. I mean, listen, they're struggling since they've come back after the hiatus. I mean, the hiatus did a lot. I mean, I know they've gone through a lot, but I mean, if I can be completely honest, as great an in-ring talent as he is, as fantastic as he can be on the mic, there is clearly a problem with Nick Aldis's personality clashing with talent. Okay. And I heard Zicky Dice's podcast and the stuff that Nick said to him, and that's why he left. It's why Royce Isaacs left. It's why these people are leaving. They're, they're all gone. Like, I mean, they had 3 great talents that they could have kept, 4 great talents that they could have kept around. And, Nick Aldis likes his spot, right?
He's certainly very protective.
There's a reason why Nick Aldis hasn't gone to the top. And, he talks at great length of that, politics kept him out of WWE. Well, we get that, I mean, sorry, your wife used to date John Cena. Yeah. And clearly that's something, but I mean, there does seem to be this level of heat, and they hinge a lot on him, but at some point they've got to find people who want to work with him, and top talent aren't going to want to work with somebody if you just kind of won't put anybody over.
Yeah, totally fair. Totally fair.
The same class and, championship, carry that, somebody like a Tim Storm has isn't there. And, I mean, I think it's, they need to, there's a lot of guys there working with him who are familiar working with Nick Aldis. And, that's why guys like, the guy who used to dance around, be a dancing dinosaur. And that's why that's why the Pope is there. But again, this is a roster that's got to get young. I mean, the young, even, Fred Rosser last week, I mean, he's 40. He's on the cusp of 40. And although, Fred looked great in this setting, actually, I think Rosser could be a good addition on TV regularly, because I think that he might actually thrive having, the spotlight kind of focused on him and not being overshadowed by so many large personalities. It might be not a bad thing for him.
Yeah.
I do think that might help him.
Yeah, that's an interesting proposal. I'd be very happy to see more Fred Rosser. He, like, aside from the match the week before that, he cut a really great promo as a heel, and I hadn't seen that side of him before. So I'm on board for a little more, a little more of a youth movement in NWA. And if Fred Rosser is a part of that, I am definitely on board. But Ry, we've reached the end of this edition of PowerrrOut. Before we let you go, and before I actually introduce a special clip after you do so, let us know where the audience can keep up with Out in the Ring on social media and otherwise on the World Wide Web.
You can keep up on Twitter at Out in the Ring. On Instagram, we're at Out in the Ring Doc. And on Facebook, we're at facebook.com/Out in the Ring.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for being a part of the show.
No problem.
And yeah, once again, before we let our audience go, we're going to play a little clip of this Thursday's episode of Smark and Friends, in which I spoke to Ry Levey and the editor of Out in the Ring, Brad Webb. Thank you so much for tuning into PowerrrOut, whether you joined us live after the fact or in the podcast. We'll be back next week. How much of this film had to end up on the cutting room floor, but like regretfully so? Like, what scenes are jumping at you that you wish could fit in, but probably won't do it? Ry's got something.
Brad, there's like so much stuff that Brad and I have to cut out of this that just doesn't have relevance to it. I mean, in particular, somebody like Susan Green is a veteran. I mean, is a raconteur and has, 50 years of wrestling history in her life. I mean, she's 69 years old. I mean, she started wrestling, she came out when she was 11 right there. I mean, just, 51 years of life experience in wrestling since coming out to now. And every story, there's stories about Elvis and everything in that, and they don't fit in.
There's so much. Yeah, I was about to say, the first thing I was to say is Susan Green. There's just so much, and she's such a great storyteller. The way she tells stories, there's just so much that I'm like, we could probably make a whole movie on just her, just with what we have. But like, we have to fit her into a much, much, much larger story.